What's going on, family? What's going on? Here we go, another episode of DTR 360 Books podcast. We have a very, very special guest tonight. Cannot wait. What's going on, family? I hope all is well. We're about to get started. Welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Peace. Peace and love. Happy Monday. It's a beautiful day to start the week off with positivity, positive affirmations. Right? New week, same goals. Peace. All right, let me see. Waiting for the brothers to request me. But in the meantime, thank you for tapping in, beloved. Thank you for tapping in. It's about to be a great show. I'm having some brothers. They're going to come on and they're going to speak about their book business. They're going to speak about their book business and how they got started. And actually, the business is about publishing. It's a publishing company geared towards children. So this would be great for those of you who are parents or know someone who is a parent and love children books. This would be dope. All right, let me hit them up real quick. Peace. Give me 1 second. Let me set them to live. Here we go. In the meantime, how's your Monday going, family? How's your Monday going? Okay, if you can hear me, drop a book emoji. If you can hear me, drop a book emoji, family. If you can hear me, drop a book emoji. If you can hear me, drop a book emoji. Peace, beloved. Peace. How are you?
Blessings, brother. All is well. How are you? Nice to have you. Nice to see you.
Alhamdulillah. I'm doing well, brother. I'm doing well. All right, cool. Is the other brother coming on?
Yes. Frank, the franchise, go ahead and send a request to join.
All right, cool. I see the book emojis. So we live. See the book emojis, family. So we live. All right, here we go.
It's the franchise.
All right. Peace,
sir.
beloved. How's it going?
It's going well, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. All right, so I'm just going to say a couple of housekeeping items. I'm going to play the intro, and then I'll just bring you brothers on.
Perfect.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Welcome to DTR 360 Books Podcast. DTR 360 Books, we're helping increase reading literacy. We are here to create more doers and less talkers. This is where we execute the knowledge and put it into action. Enjoy this week's episode of the podcast.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Hotep. Islam. Alafia. What is going on, family? What is going on? Happy Monday. We are back with another episode. Episode number 8. Wow, I can't believe it. This is episode number 8 of DTR 360 Books podcast. Right now, we have a very, very, very special guest in the building tonight. Okay. Melanin Origins. Now, before we get into that, family, I just want to let you know, please support DTR 360 Books podcast. Buy a badge to support so that DTR 360 Books podcast can sustain itself and thrive in the coming months ahead. All right, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, DTR 360 Books. We are trying to get up to 500 subscribers by the end of 2021. So please help us and subscribe so that we can meet our goal. Also, family, make sure that you subscribe and follow our podcast outlets. Whether if it be Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. We are on all podcast outlets, Cashbox, whatever podcast outlet you are on, search for us and you will find us there. All right, family. So, as I said, we have a very, thank you, beloved, for that badge. Appreciate it. 7NV Scottsdale. Awesome. Appreciate you. So, family, we have a very special podcast tonight. We have Melanin Origins. So we have two. So this is the first time we have two guests on at the same time. So thank you, family. Brother Louis and Brother Frank. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for
How
having
y'all
Thank you,
doing?
brother, for having me.
Thanks for having us, man. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. How y'all doing today?
Fabulous.
I'm doing well. Bless.
Awesome, man. I love Mondays. I don't know about you, but I love Mondays. Mondays is my favorite day of the week. Not only because of numerology speaking, but also I just feel better, just waking up on a Monday knowing that I will continue to accomplish my goals, even though it's a new week, right? I have the mindset of accomplishing my goals for Monday so that I can have that same energy throughout the week. So,
That's
man,
right.
this is a beautiful day. It's a beautiful evening. And I mean, any day above ground is a blessing, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yes, sir. And we're definitely excited here. I mean, with it being a Monday, we've been waiting on this podcast, ready to join you and have this conversation. So we're just excited for another day, like you said, above ground.
Yes, sir. Well, let's get into it. So I want to hear, Brother Louis and Brother Frank, what was your upbringing like? Let's just start off from there.
Frank, you want to go first? Go ahead, man.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was born to Liberian parents. Actually, my mom's from Ghana and my dad's from Liberia.
Okay.
But like I said, even though I was in Rhode Island in the States, I grew up in an African household. So I grew up in a household where, my family education, my father's side of the family was very high value education, and my mother's side of the family was high value business. So, growing up, it was about go to school, was about, yeah, exactly. So it was about, hit your books, you know what I'm saying? Coming home with C's and all that was not accepted in my household. So I had to handle my business in the classroom. I was expected to handle my business as a man, as far as how I carried myself, my behavior. My father used to tell me, don't be out there messing up my name in the street. So I had some responsibilities on how I carried myself as well. And when I demonstrated that I had understood the lessons that he taught me, then I had a lot more freedom. You know what I'm saying? So, but I grew up in a real loving household. Dad was a disciplinarian, but he showed love. My mom was also, she showed love, but she also was a disciplinarian. And I had an older sister. So that was kind of the family unit for most of my life until things started to change.
Indeed.
Okay.
How about you, Brother Louis?
Oh, man. So I'm from Arlington, Texas. Born and raised, which is a suburb right around Dallas, Fort Worth. I was raised by my mother and my stepfather. I can't say that it's as practical as Frank's upbringing was like, but both of my parents, they are from Liberia. I'm first generation, African American. When I was born here, but brought up around in an African household around African and Liberian churches, celebrations, funerals. So that was pretty much my predominant experience outside of school, which, you know, the public school system, you know, I just pretty much grew up African American, man, in the suburbs of Arlington, Texas.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Great. So, so my question is, going forward, how was how was your education like in school? And if you guys went to college, if you don't mind explaining your college experience as well.
All right, I'll pop that one out. So just a little something about Arlington, Texas. Arlington, Texas is the second most diverse city in the state of Texas, which Houston is the most diverse city in the United States of America, right?
Oh, wow.
So Arlington, Texas, you know, I really didn't grow up personally, you know, unless it all went over my head. Really didn't grow up really experiencing like blatant racism, things like that. Like we grew up with, you know, white people in the neighborhood, Asians, Hispanics. Arlington is a nice melting pot. Let's see. I actually went to a college, a very small college. I really didn't want to. I wasn't interested really in going to college whenever I graduated. I personally, I wanted to work, and I wanted to work in a warehouse, get an apartment, and just take care of my family. That's all that I wanted. I went to school. I ended up getting saved, and I turned my whole life around. And then so I got saved into Christianity, turned my whole life around. And then I focused my attention on helping to change, work in the juvenile field to help to change lives there. Because, you know, you asked about upbringing before, you know, once I got into high school, things took a turn. But lucky for me, I was able to turn my life around. And so I've been focusing on juvenile there. But when I got into college, that's the first time that I really took a real interest in education. Like that's when I really started to see that, first off, the process is simple. You know, some of the subject matter is actually interesting. And I mean, it practically helped me there as I was going through college. And even in college, I was able to, you know, work with people, put our minds together and may have tangible solutions in the community. And so my upbringing was different, but once I got into college, that's when I really started locking in on the value of education.
So for you, I guess the spark came on in college, and for you to value education more. Why was that? Why did it have to take for you to get into college, for you to say, you know what, education is dope, or you know, education is something that I can use in order to better my life?
You know, so the school that I was at, everybody had 2 or 3 roommates. So I was in there. It was 4 of us, 3 of us in a room. And when I first went there, I would go to class, come back to my room, and try to study. And all these roommates would be in there making noise. Their friends coming in and out. And I was like, okay, what? I'm not really accomplishing much, right? But I had some friends from the Caribbean, and this is the first time that I've seen that. You know, growing up pretty much Black American, you know, you live life, you know, depending on where you're from, it's pretty much just one way, and you see school and education as one way. But I had some friends from Africa, from the Caribbean. I'm talking Bahamas, Haiti, and they had this ethic where we would go to lunch or dinner. We would go to dinner. Then we would go to the library after that. And these guys, I mean, we would sit at the table and they would really dive into the subject matter of what they're doing. And they were really focused. But the first class that really sparked my attention, because I studied criminal justice, it was criminology. And the question came out, it was, why do people commit crimes? And just that practical question right there. Why do people commit crimes? Is it because...
That's a loaded question.
Bro, hey, right?
Real
loaded question.
Supposedly, there's only 2 answers. I mean, there's only 2 sides to join. It's either because they're a product of their environment, or it's because, well, they know the consequences and they're just going to do what they have to do. You know, what's the right answer? And so to see that I could be here in college, higher education, and we're having these kind of conversations, like this stuff that I was talking with my homeboys, you know what I mean, chilling back on the block, doing our thing, just like talking about life. I'm here in college and we're having these kind of conversations. And so I was like, okay, yeah, let me dive more into these topics and come to find out that's what education is about.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Brother Frank?
Well, so repeat your question for me real quick.
Oh, the question was, how did you get? Well, it was more solely geared towards Louis, because he said that once he got into education, college, that's when he valued education. But before that,
Right.
my question was, how was your college experience? If you was in college, and
Right.
what is your definition of education?
Wow, yeah, that's a great question, man. So for me, it was like I told you, like education is high value in my family. So, like at a young age, it was always about going to school and getting good grades, right? But as we're young and as our minds are underdeveloped, we look at things very simply, right? So okay, I was like, go to school and get good grades. That's easy. It wasn't about go to school to learn. You know what I mean? It was about go to school, get good grades. So my mind figured out, okay, how do I get good grades? So really, elementary school for me, it was all a game. It was like, okay, how do I get the A? Once I figured out how to get the A, I got the A. So I had a good memory. They tell me 2 + 2 is 4, but they put it on the test 2 weeks later. I had a good memory photographic, so I gave it right back to them. But I wasn't learning nothing. I was just memorizing what they told me. And one thing that I did realize at a young age is that, I know it now. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. Back then, I thought I didn't like history. I thought I hated history, but I didn't hate history. I just didn't like what they was teaching me. I wasn't interested. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't interested. And then I started getting a little older. I started listening to hip hop. I started paying more attention to the people that look like me and kind of following that mindset. So listening to rap music like KRS-One, when he starts talking about, it doesn't pay to know the life and times of someone else, and trying to understand, like, what are they trying to teach me? So anyway, so high school was more of the same. Played sports. I had good grades. It was easy for me. It wasn't until I got to college and I took a philosophy class. Interestingly enough, right? Philosophy is not necessarily about answers. It's about, what do you think it means?
Logic, yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I took a philosophy class, I'll never forget. It was like an introduction to classical philosophy. Mr. Enterman, I still remember the guy. But in that class, I started thinking. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I unlocked something because I started thinking, and then I started applying that to the different situations, and I started reading more about history and understanding, how this whole system of education comes about, right? So my definition of education is about learning. Like, you can't have an education without learning. My personal opinion, what they teach in public school is not necessarily learning. It's not necessarily education, because all they're doing is socializing you. You know what I'm saying? And I realized that when I got to college, freshman year, and after that, my 4 years of college were totally different than every schooling that I've been a part of prior to.
Wow.
Powerful. So this next question is in relation to what you were just saying. So how or when did you become conscious in social issues, conscious in knowing your history, right? And I would assume that you guys became conscious when you was in college. But if you can describe how was that experience like? And I know Brother Louis, you took a history class, things of that nature. So what was that spark, or what was that aha moment that prompted you to become conscious and to start to read books and start to develop your critical thinking skills in the world that we in, and then even international, because you guys are Africans, even internationally, going back to the motherland? What was that experience and process like?
Well, sheesh, there's so many ways I can answer that question. Let me dive in. Let me tackle a few of them. As far as reading goes, me having a desire to actually want to read more. I could tell you the first book that I read, the first chapter book that I read on purpose. I was 21 years old, and it was I was on the plane and I was reading this book. No, I was sitting next to this woman who was reading a book by Terry Woods. Major shout out to Terry Woods, because you started my intellectual journey. But it wasn't even about anything intellectual. She writes books that are like hood books. I grew up watching hood movies, like, you know, Men's Society, Boys in the Hood. I got the hookup and all that stuff, you know. So here she is writing True to the Game, writing Dutch 1, 2, and 3. And I was sitting next to a woman, and she let me read the back of a book. And by the time I read that, I started reading the inside. And then she said, hey, look, just have this book. And it was there at that moment that I was like, wow, a book can entertain me just as much as a television. Like the book like has my mind captive. I'm feeling everything that's happening inside this book. You know what I mean? Like I'm literally, it feels good. I can see it. But as far as, you know, consciousness, that comes into different levels too. But at my school, you know, so now I'm intellectualized. I'm hit, you know, why do people commit crimes? Why do all of my friends went to jail or prison? So I'm looking back at them like, okay, so this is my demographic straight up, period. Like, why is it that I'm watching TV? Like, why is it that we're geared to this? It's all in the movies. It's all in the music, you know. But as far as, let me give you like the shortest way I can put this. The school that I went to was called Pensacola Christian College. It's a very small schools, conservative Christian, like bunch of Republicans wearing Confederate flag type stuff, right? I went to this school. I studied criminal justice. 80% of my classmates went on. Well, 80% of my classmates were white. I say 90% were white. 80% went on to be a police officer. All of my professors, except 2, were ex-police officers. So I'm giving you some background. You know, I go to that school, I do that whole thing, I graduate, all this stuff. I'm studying to I can go back and make a difference with people who look like me in the juvenile system. A few years after I get out of school, well, Barack Obama becomes elected president. You know, then it's an uproar from people at the school, some of my classmates. You know, we start having Trayvon Martin, may his soul rest in peace. He gets you know, brutally killed. My classmates, the people who I used to, you know, study with, cram with, you know, pray with, all that stuff. They all talking all this crazy stuff. Trayvon Martin was a thug. Ferguson's going down. They posting pictures of Planet of the Apes. And so that's whenever I really started diving in. Like, man, what? This is crazy. Like, this is crazy. Like, y'all really feel this way. I started getting drawn more to people like Dr. Umar Johnson. I started getting drawn more to people like Dr. Boyce Watkins, Frank, my business partner here. Like, he's my business partner, but he's like my life mentor. We've been down for like some years. And he passed me books like The Alchemist, The Power of Now, and, you know, books that started taking me going down journeys. And I started seeing the world in a different way. And that's kind of the story about how Melanin Origins came about. It was because we realized that there was such a void based off what's going on. The story is told all the way wrong, and mind control is all the way real, you know. And so we noticed a void in the industry of what was going on, and we decided we're going to put together a solution so we can prep our people, prep our parents and our children, so they can be on this journey with us.
Yes, sir.
Dope. How about you, Brother Frank?
You know, okay, so, you know, I would say that again, I think for me, you know, I grew up in America, right? African American, literally African American, right? I'm a citizen of America. My parents are African, so I grew up in an African American environment. But I grew up in an African household, so the culture in my house was African. I might as well have been in a house in Liberia. You know what I'm saying? Because the language, the clothing, the food, the mindset was all African. So I didn't necessarily operate in the world with the mindset of a quote unquote African American. So I never accepted the second class citizenship. I never accepted that mindset. Like my parents didn't raise me about nothing with any inferiority. It was always on some king shit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Excuse my French. But so going with that mindset and then growing up, like Ronnie, I was born in the 70s, you know what I'm saying? 75, the 80s, you know what I'm saying? With crack and police. Like my story is very similar to Louis and me growing up, like in junior high, high school, man, I used to get stopped by the cops all the time. You know what I mean? Like I used to get stopped by the police all the time. You talking about driving while black, being profiled, walking while black. I mean, by the time I got to high school and I started driving, oh, you could forget it. I was getting stopped 2-3 times a week just because, you know. So, and it's funny because at that time in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I didn't want to be a cop, but I knew I wanted to work in the criminal justice system to help people that's dealing with the same thing I was dealing with. Right. So I went to college. My mindset was criminal justice for that reason. You know, but going to, I mean, having a philosophy class, the first book, I had friends, most of my friends are about, 3-4 years older than me. So, so when I was in high school, I had friends in college, and then it was almost like higher learning. So I had my friend Steve Price, shout out to Steve Price. He gave me a book, the biography of Malcolm X. Right. And, and that was right around senior year, 18, 19 years old. I'm going to college and I'm seeing all these things happen in the world. Mind you, we didn't come out of the crack epidemic and all of that. We didn't come out of super predators and everything like that. Now we in the, what I'm saying? I grew up in the 90s. High school career was in the 90s, 90, 91, 92. 93, I graduated, went to college through 98. So the whole 90s, I was in high school and college. So by the time I got to college, reading about Malcolm X, reading about, Martin Luther King, reading about, Kwame Ture, reading about the Black Panthers. Right. And I was like, and then I can't, and, when I try to tell people this, I think they look at it on a very low level. But the hip hop that I was listening to as a kid really had an effect on me. You know what I'm saying? Like KRS-One, X-Clan, you know what I'm saying? Big Daddy Kane, like these guys were the avatars of what I was striving to be like as far as in the physical. I wanted to present myself like Rakim. I wanted to talk like X-Clan, like KRS-One. I wanted to be intelligent like those brothers because, that's when the medallions was hot. That's when the black colleges, you know what I'm saying? Like black colleges and black spirit was high at that time. Yes, sir. So, kind of going into college around that time, entering into the philosophy classes and understanding the structure of education, like all of that really kind of opened my mind and really kind of laid the path for the person that I was going to become and the direction I was going to go in, regarding education, regarding consciousness, and regarding this whole matrix that we're all plugged into.
Yes, man. The autobiography of Malcolm X, that book would do it to you. That book will, because that was the book that inspired me and brought me into consciousness, if you will. So powerful book.
Yes, it is.
Even though some of the chapters was taken out, but needless to say, that book is still by Malcolm X's own words. So
yes,
powerful book. So let's get into it. Brother Louis, he mentioned Melanin Origins. So, and any one of you brothers can answer it. What is Melanin Origins, and how did the name Melanin Origins came into existence?
All right. Melanin Origins, we are a global publishing service, global publishing company. We write children's books. I write about African American pioneers. See, we got to switch that up somehow, right? African American pioneers. We have these other two series, but I'll get into that. Our mission is to provide quality education materials which inspire young minds to aspire for excellence while embracing their heritage. Okay, so Melanin Origins, we started off with children's books about Black history. Like we noticed that the story of Ida B. Wells, Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, these stories were not told to kids in second grade and below. I mean, we don't even hear about Marcus Garvey. I learned about Marcus Garvey when I was 25 years old. I heard about Ida B. Wells from like a Kanye West song and watching The Wire type stuff. And
Wow.
it was Dr. Umar Johnson where I learned that Booker T. Washington and his students built the Tuskegee universe with their bare hands. You know, so I'm thinking, man, these people did all these great things, yet all the public school system can do is start off the history lessons with Black people were slaves. And so, again, what I was just telling you about dealing with the people at my school and all that craziness, I was like, okay, no, there's no way we can continue to allow this to happen. There's no way we can continue to allow this to happen. And so Frank and I, we decided we're going to create this company. This is what we're going to do. And so, I mean, we have our niche as far as the way how we present our leaders as children so as to be relatable to children, the way how we tell the stories, focusing on achievement, leadership. I mean, we'll get more into that. But Melanin Origins, of course, melanin as in Black, and then, you know, origins as in first to mainly originate, first to be here. You know what I mean? First to do many things. You know, it's another way for us to say Black history, and, you know, to talk about some of the things that our Black pioneers, our Black leaders and innovators have done in the past.
Awesome. Brother Frank, anything to add?
You know, not really, man, other than the fact that, you know, as we're going through this journey and understanding, there's a lot of education, if you will, a lot of knowledge that people are first getting introduced to. You know, a lot of people that we speak to, you know, they're just getting introduced to the understanding and the idea of what melanin is. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about these things, it's like even talking about the name of the company is an education. It forces you to learn more about even what the company name means. You know, so it's from the beginning. And if you go as far back in history as you want, everybody Black, right? So we understand that everything comes from Black. Everything comes from the darkness, so to speak. You know, so Melanin Origins just represents that. Like we're starting the company at the foundation, and then we're branching out just as life has expanded, you know?
Deep. So, so you guys are a children's publishing company, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why you started out as a publishing company and not just say as just a regular book company writing children's book? Why a publishing company?
You know what?
Louis, let me get it.
Yeah.
I just want to say this because it did start out that way. It started out as, hey, we're gonna write these children's books. We're just gonna alternate. You're gonna write one, I'm gonna write one, and we're gonna go like that. So we did that for the first 3. But then when other people started seeing what we were doing, then people were reaching out so we could do that for them. And it became a lot more energy to put into that, to create more at a faster pace than for us to write them all ourselves. So it kind of blossomed naturally into a publishing company, but it started out exactly the way that you said it. All right, Lou, you can have the rest.
No, that's it, man. That was beautiful, man. That was beautiful. That was it.
Word. Dope. Now, so to my understanding, the idea of Melanin Origins came about by Brother Louis, and then you reached out to Brother Frank, and I guess he saw your vision and he agreed to working with you together on Melanin Origins. Brother Frank, what was that conversation like when Brother Louis reached out to you to, you know, have you as his right-hand man to help this company flourish and blossom to what it is today?
Yes, sir. Well, I say first that we had a relationship prior to. We don't have just a business relationship. And Louis he's a very creative guy. He's not your typical go to work, punch a clock, and be satisfied with that. This isn't the first kind of business or initiative that he's had. We've had Liberia Smile, where we gave scholarships to children in Africa, in different countries in Africa. He had humane resources where it was basically a business that would provide opportunities for people with criminal records. You know what I'm saying? So it was always something going on with Louis. He's always thinking in an entrepreneurial type of way. So I'll never forget, I was in Rhode Island. One of my best friends passed away. He suddenly, and unexpectedly died from some health issue that he had. And I was in Rhode Island dealing with that, and he called me, and we were talking. It was October, I believe, of 2015, and we were having a conversation, and he was telling me about his idea because he always shares ideas with me. And I was like, man, that's great, man, because of course I've always had an interest in education, right? Like real education and understanding and learning knowledge. And I've always had an affinity for the school system or the school environment where real learning can take place and how you have this captive audience with children. You know, so I always felt like if you can be in that environment and instill the right information with those children, then you can make an impact. And at the same time, we both had young children. So there was no way that I could say, hey, look, I'm down. What do you need me to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we'll talk about it when I get back, but I love the vision. Let's kind of flesh it out and see what you're trying to do with it. That's kind of how that happened.
Dope, man, dope. I love that you know, you took on the responsibility of helping another brother, but just as you said, you guys already had a prior relationship, and you knew each other even before Melanin origin. So that was dope because some, you know, granted, some people, they don't believe in your vision, and they don't believe in you. So if they don't even believe in you, then they wouldn't see where you're coming from. They wouldn't see a vision. So man, that story is just dope, and I love it. All right, so let's go into this other question. So you spoke about wait, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you guys, because since you both are Liberian, and I know Frank, I think your mother's from Ghana. Actually been to Ghana in 2014. Is your mother or your father?
My mother.
Yeah, right. So yes, your mother's from Ghana. So I actually love Ghana. So, but you guys born here, you grew up here. What was there any distinction that you saw with, you know, quote unquote, African Americans education and its value or lack thereof for education, and Africans' value for education? Was there any difference or similarities between the two?
Let me jump on that. Let me jump on that, Frank. All right. Landmines. Oh man, let's see. Great question. Any similarities or any differences? You know, it'll be hard to generalize, but I could say this. I grew up with African American friends, and so I feel like whenever we were in grade school, especially up until middle school, you know, A's, B's, and C's, like that's what we were getting. That's kind of what we were focusing on. There wasn't really, you know, my parents, it wasn't like, you know, maybe an Indian person's parents or a Chinese person's parents. You know, my parents were content with, you know, A, B's, and C's, so long as you're passing, you have a plan, you know. It got more lackadaisical on my part in my household, because my mom always worked two or three jobs, right? And so I'm coming from the situation where, you know, the parents not always just present or available there to oversee you, but she did have a stern hand, and she wanted me to have A's and B's and C's. You know, I can't speak all the way for, you know, some of my friends growing up, what their situation was like. But the major distinction that I've seen firsthand, was, like I said, was in college. Like I seen a distinction from the way how I grew up and my expectations than my friends from the Bahamas. You know what I mean? Or my friends from Jamaica or Haiti, who they had some parents who were they had a very serious and a very stern work ethic. You know, kind of like what Frank was saying earlier. You know, that there was no conversation that led to inferiority. There's no conversation that led to we are going to be a product of our environment or we're limited by anything at all, right? And so to me, it's more so like paradigm. That's the most I can say about that. Frankie might have more to say about that.
Yeah, you know, I have to say that my situation was, like I said, it was always high value on education, and it was always talked about. I mean, it was the expectation. Listen, don't come up in here with no B's. I mean, it was like if you didn't come, like I remember, I'll never forget, man. Like all through high school, I mean not high school, all through elementary school, I had all A's, all A's, graduated all A's. When I came home with like a B in 7th grade, my pops almost had a fit. I said, "Hey, man, you gotta relax a little bit." You know what I'm saying? So, but like that young upbringing was like, you're gonna have perfect attendance. You're gonna go to school every day. You're gonna make sure you hit them books, and you know you're gonna get them A's. Like that's what it is. They talked about family because in my house I had one older sister, so of course whatever she did I had to do. So she come home with all A's, you come home with all A's. Right. You know she gonna do community service, you gonna do community service. She's going to college, you going to college. Like that's what it is. You follow her. And fortunately, I had a sister who was who set the bar pretty high. But what I learned even beyond that was the bar was set in the family, not just with me and her, but they were comparing us to other cousins that were older, that were lawyers, that were doctors. Like, you know, having a bachelor's degree, that's like a high school diploma. When I was growing up, it's like, yo, when you getting your master's? You ain't got the master's yet? Like, what you doing? So, and then when I started having more interactions with a lot more of my African friends and my African American friends, I did see in my growing up, in my upbringing, that with the Africans, it was definitely, you know, education. And I think as I grew up and understood it, just like in my own family, you know, my parents were very serious about me taking advantage of that vehicle to be successful in this country. Like if you want to be successful in this country, mind you, this is the 70s and the 80s, you're going to have to get you a job. You're going to have to go to college and then get you a job. Like that was the path. So they were like, you're going to master that path because that's the path of a successful American individual. And I think that also the mindset of the Africans coming to this country is that, you know, like they come here and they're focused on that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that, you know, there's always this paradigm between, or this paradox between Black Americans and Africans. And I think that some of that is perpetuated by like not us, but just kind of what we see out in the world and what we believe to be the stories. Like, oh yeah, Africans don't like Americans. Oh yeah, Americans don't like Black Africans. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. But I did see that, you know, like some of the mindset was that, you know, these people are not focused, you know what I'm saying, as focused as we are. And we don't have the same kind of chances that they have because they're here. We come here for the opportunity. So when you get here, take advantage of that. And your parents are not going to let you slip too far beyond that. That was my experience.
Right. Yeah, and the reason why I asked that because I actually see that now as a teacher. I see that now. I'm a teacher out here in Newark, New Jersey, and the majority of the population of the students, I teach elementary, but the majority of the population is West African. So, you know, they come from Nigeria, they come from Ghana, you know, those countries. And I see that. I see no matter how small and young that they are, I still see the distinction of Africans students, you know, as you said, having straight A's, learning how to write, coming to school every day, so on and so forth. And then I see, you know, the so-called Black students, some of them are late, you know, some of them still can't even talk properly. I teach first grade, and some of them still can't say certain words properly. They can't write properly, right? They don't do their homework. And so all of these things, and most of them actually is coming from a single parent household. That's the next issue that we didn't even tackle, right? So, and I actually did a video on that. Most students, in my experience that I see currently, those students who are doing well in school, they come from a two-parent household most times. And the students that aren't doing so much good in school, they come from a single-parent household, whether that be a mother or father, because sometimes the father is the single parent, most times it's the mother. And so granted,
Right.
it is difficult and strenuous raising a child, going to work, doing this, doing that, right? But the situation and the experience that I see is unfortunate with the Black child not fully having the fortunate experiences and services that can propel him or her to do well in school. Now, with the Africans, it's a different story. They have a two-parent household, and again, is that indoctrination, if you will, as you said, brother Frank. Go to school. You're gonna do this. You're going to get straight A's. You're going to, make sure that you become a doctor. Make sure that you become a lawyer. Make sure that you become a businessman. Whatever you want to be, they make sure and they support their children, and they continuously instill that positivity and value of education in these young children's minds, so that they can become somebody in this world. Now, and also in my experience growing up, it was the same thing, right? I grew up with my aunt, but she didn't instill education in me, and I can bet you my peers' parents didn't instill education in them. So, but if it wasn't for me, I had my own mind and I wanted to be somebody. So it was all on me. I'm going to go to school. I'm not going to play hooky. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go to school. I'm not going to hang out on a Sunday night. I know so I was very mature just at a young age, but we talking about junior high and high school. But just on an
Yeah.
elementary level, I still see the distinction between African students and Black students as it relates to education. So that was my reason for asking that question.
Let me hop in on that, because man, I'm telling you, it's a very sticky conversation, man. This is a very sticky conversation. Like I would say, even I had an identity crisis when I was going through, junior high school. I had an identity crisis because, again, African household. I'm in a public school system. When I was in elementary, I was all that African booty scratching, all that other stuff, all that derogatory stuff, right? But I remember when I really started getting into rap music, I really started noticing like gang activity around me, the older kids, drugs and stuff. I remember even whenever like wanting to be like Cash Money, you know what I'm saying? Like back then they had the bandanas they were wearing around their neck. I remember like practicing cussing at a certain time, walking down the street trying to look hard and tough, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I remember doing all this stuff, and I can't even imagine what a little 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid has to deal with what they see on TV. They have access to TikTok, YouTube, the radio. I mean, everything is busted out. Like, this is the way how it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? This is the way how it is. Actually, you don't have any hope. You don't have any opportunity. Education is boring. Get money is all that it is. Screw everybody over to get money. Actually, like these kids are, and this, so we're not talking about just the parents. So I want to make sure the conversation is saying that we're not talking about just the parents. We're not talking about just Black or African. But what I'll say, being as a Liberian, I will salute my Nigerian brothers and sisters who are, they do exploits like on like a grand scale. Like a lot of them are doctors, lawyers, and they just keep it coming, keep it going. They hold this certain standard. Ghanaians, so on, so on, so forth. And so, to me, it's about these people groups. They are connected to their culture, where they come from. They are connected to a lineage. Like they can trace back their lineage, and they have so much cultural and ancestral pride in that. They are connected to spiritual systems and belief systems. Like they don't get through their 30s and be like, wait a minute, the story of Asar and Jesus is similar. I'm lost now. You know what I'm saying? They don't get through man, you know, I'm not dealing with Christianity now because you know, the slavery stuff. Like they have all of that built up in them. They're not running around here locked with so many distractions, shall I say, with so many distractions that can take them this way and that way. And that's why Melanin Origins is here. That's why we are here. Like, bro, we have 25 books in 3 series, 25 books, and we still have to figure out how do we get everybody excited. You know, whenever Travis Scott, Jay-Z, whoever's going to have a concert, they're going to run out there, they're going to jump up and do this, they're going to have all this lights, camera, and action. But that is that same level of energy being given as when it comes to education, you know? And so that's what we are working to do. And still that education is fun. Education is drawing out information that's within you. This is what our spiritual system has said since antiquity, that there's information that is in you and helping you to rise to a higher level. Education is understanding that without a thought, there wouldn't even be McDonald's, Coca-Cola, this smartphone, and all this stuff right here. All that information is within you and connecting to yourself and finding self-love and being able to reproduce on this earth. And that's what it's about. You know, in our community, the Black community at large in America, you know, it's about drugs and sex and, you know, all this negative stuff. Get money however you can and just do that. You know, but we have to turn the tide. We got to make education and learning fun, period.
Word. Totally agree. So how can we begin in some cases, or how can we begin, or in some cases continue to instill proper education to our youth?
Go ahead.
You know, let me just say this real quick. So, like Louis was saying, right, we have these mugs channeling the greatness that lies within, you know what I'm saying, Melanin Origins. And, you know, one of the things that I think, to answer your question, is that you have to pick a starting point, right? We can't complain, right, about how when I was in elementary school that, you know, like one of the guests in the show in the chat was saying when they was in elementary school, all they heard about was Christopher Columbus and the slaves. Like that's what they was taught. So as a grown man, I can't complain about that information because that has already happened. You know what I mean? Like I'm 46. You know, Louis not my age. He's younger. There's some 26-year-old brothers out there. There's some 16-year-old brothers and some 6-year-old kids. So at some point, though, we have to introduce knowledge, right? Different information than they were taught in school, because we know that in school, it's just about socialization. So my thing is with Melanin Origins, right? Let's take us for an example. We focus on our children, right? We're writing these books, writing these stories, introducing these children to this information. And like Louis said, we have another series, Ma'at series, where we're talking about principles. So it's not just people. Now we're talking about principles. We're expanding. But what happens is, and this happens every time, and this is why I think it's beautiful. We're creating these books for kids, right? But who's buying the books for the kids? The parents, right? So in a conversation with the parents about the information that we're introducing, there's a level that we can introduce to the kids, but there's also a level that the parents can learn about. You know what I'm saying? I want to learn about the principle of justice, the principle of, you know, propriety, the principle of peace, the principle of truth. And what does that mean to me at this point in my life? You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we have this mantra that says a child that's educated in the school system is not an educated child. You know what I'm saying? The parents have to take on that role of the educator to teach the children information and knowledge. You know, so I believe that we have, you know, Melanin Origins has these books and we're introducing children to information. But as we do that, we're also kind of forcing the parents to learn about this stuff too, to learn and understand that or unlearn some of the things that they've been taught their whole lives, which hasn't really worked for them. You know what I'm saying? And then that informs them how to raise their children with more knowledge than they were raised with. My kids know about Marcus Garvey and Ida B. Wells and W.E.B. Du Bois. You know what I'm saying? They know about all those cats at you know, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. They know these people more than just the individuals, the black people that elementary school wants to teach you about. They know about Langston Hughes. You know what I'm saying? They know about the Black Panthers. You know what I'm saying? Bobby Seale and Huey P. They know about these people. So, you know, I believe that at different levels, right, we just have to pick a time. We have to, and this is the time where we have to take our education back. You know what I'm saying? We have to take, the knowledge is out there. We have to put it out there. The knowledge is out there for us to attain, and we have it within us to achieve greatness if we to get that knowledge and we apply it to the rest of the world around us. You know, the potential is unlimited, but we got to believe that. And the parents have to believe it, and they instill it in their children.
I love that word. You said belief, because this whole debate, this topic about belief versus faith. Listen, we have to get kids to know and understand that they have the abilities within them to do whatever it is that they want to do in life. Like, they have greatness living within them, and that we are guides, their parents are guides. Everything that they experience in life is a guide to draw that information out and to get them to realize who they are. Like, our goal is to back the information that was saved up and stored for us back in ancient Egypt. At the doorposts of the mystery schools was know thyself. We have to, each individual, it's your life's purpose to understand who you are, who it is that God created you to be, that you have the spirit of the living God inside you and the ability to manifest on this earth. And, you know, the enemy's job is to cast doubt. Like, everyone is entitled to their own creation story. Everyone is entitled to their own spiritual system. Like, it's my fundamental belief that God does whatever he's going to do to get a hold of you and to get you to believe in yourself and understand that the abilities that you have. And that is what we have to do by any means necessary. Get that message into children, because somehow that came into your mind, somehow that came into your life, brother, and then that's how you are manifesting here on this earth. And you look around and people look at you and they're like, man, how you do this, how you do that? And it's like, you know, if I told you, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've heard it a million times, but we got to dig into it, we got to tap into it. And so we're very grateful to pass along these tools. Like my brother was saying it since the beginning. Frank, you've been saying that we have tools. We have tools for kids to know about Booker T, Ida B, WB. As a matter of fact, our very first series, Black History series, right? In there, we cover Booker T, W.B. Du Bois, and Marcus Garvey. Those three gentlemen they had three conflicting theories about how Black people should progress in America after slavery, right? And so we point our parents to that. Go find that information. Here's who they are. This is what they're saying. Now your child knows about him at 4 or 5 years old. Our second series, we're taking kids and we say, hey, look, you know, love is a good attribute, a good characteristic, joy, faithfulness, peace, what they call the fruits of the spirit. We allow children to connect with their faith and see characters who look like them. And just like what my brother Frank was saying in our third series, which is the Ma'at series, like, what is Ma'at? Ma'at is the spiritual system that caused for Egypt and the Nile Valley to rise to its greatest heights. That's information whenever they say Black people were removed from their roots. Like, that's that. All of our ancestors, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, Brother Kaba Kamene, who's with us now. I mean, Dr. John Henry Clark. Everybody was talking about this stuff. Like, all of our greatest scholars were talking about this. What do? We've provided it to you. We provided it to you. This is how our people lived whenever we are at our greatest heights. And it's very simple stuff like propriety, doing the proper thing at the proper time, being respectful. It's simple things like, what is truth? You know, people think that truth is just one thing, but truth stands outside from me and you. Me and you might have a disagreement, but truth is right here, and we have to identify with truth. So it's causing people, right, to be more spiritual and to take that journey within so that they can realize who they are. Like, that's what we have to do.
Brother, if you don't mind, I know you're the interviewer, but I have one question for you, brother.
Yes, sir.
What is the greatest lie that you've ever been told that you actually believed in your life?
That Jesus is white.
Yeah, word.
Right, exactly. Now, and what I would say is that's very similar to the lie that I was told that I believed. And it's even beyond that Jesus is white, God is white, and God is not a part of me. You know what I'm saying? God is not within me. God is a spook in the sky. That's part of the lie that I believed for a very, very long time. So just imagine, as we talk about, some of these, the tree of life and the fruits of the spirit, and we wrap these conversations in a Bible series with characters that are historically accurate, and kids start to read this stuff and they start to understand, like, wait a minute, because when I was their age, I was reading about Adam and Eve, all white people. I was reading about Lot and Lot's wife, right, and Jesus and Mary, all white people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But when they see these Bible characters and they understand the fruits of the spirit in that way, understanding that I, just kind of came into as a grown man, it's going to change their view of religion, God, and spirituality. And if you, just like you and me, we grown. And that was the greatest lie that ever told to us, and we believed it. And how did that affect our lives until we realized it was a lie? Mm-hmm. And imagine coming up from single digits, elementary years, with a different understanding of spirituality and God and what that can do for the rest of your life. Oh, imagine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is why it's important for us to teach and educate our youngsters as early as possible. Yeah. As early as the younger, the better. I always say the younger, the better, because even though our youth minds are not fully developed yet, they take in so much more. Take in so much more, and you can better instill proper information, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding onto our youngsters so that they can grow up with the proper understanding and overstanding of the information of religion, of spirituality, of the historical information, so that they can have a better understanding of the world in which they live in, and internationally as well. So I always say the younger, the better. Family, we are almost at our end of this podcast. So I would like to do a quick commercial break. Family, if you are now tuning in, you are tuning into DTR 360 Books Podcast. DTR 360 Books Podcast. This is episode number 8. We have our special guest with us at the moment, Melanin Origins, who is a children's publishing book company. And they have published and written over 25 books and counting. So if you are interested in any of the books, they speak on religion, they speak on ma'at, they speak on Black history and so forth. Definitely go to their website, www.melaninorigins.com. And you can also follow them on Instagram as well. Family, you can also buy a badge as well. If you see it on the screen at the moment, buy a badge so that we can have many other authors, many other book publishing companies like Melanin Origins, and many other teachers and professors to come and speak on their experience of education. Not only their experience, but how can we entice and help enthuse Black people, African people, to be excited about education. Not only to be excited about education, but I always say that knowledge is not power, but applied knowledge is true power. We need to apply the knowledge in order for us to be powerful. We need to apply the knowledge in order for us to be productive. And we need to apply the knowledge in order for us to see true change. So I always say that applied knowledge is true power. So we have to make sure and apply the knowledge, not just read. We can read books, but that wouldn't do anything for us if we don't apply the knowledge. We can go to these
Right.
seminars and lectures, but it wouldn't do much if we don't apply the knowledge. Okay, we can even go to school and have all these degrees, but it wouldn't do nothing if we don't apply what we've learned in school in order for us to see true productive change. So, family, definitely you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, DTR 360 Books. Subscribe to our podcast outlets as well. Subscribe to our podcast outlets. We are on every and any podcast outlet. There is Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Castbox, so on and so forth. All right, you can just search for our names, and our podcast will pop up. I have a final and last question for you, brothers. Thank you first and foremost for accepting my invite and for gracing us with your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding about children books and about your backgrounds as well. This was very informative and very insightful. And I hope to have you guys back on, inshallah, soon, next year if possible.
It'll be our pleasure.
Yes, sir. My question is, are you guys just focusing on children books, or will there be adult books coming in the near future?
Great question. So our main focus is on putting out our branded books, right? That's our main focus. Our branded series 1, 2, 3, what we decide we're going to write about, boom. But anyone else who has a book idea, please bring it over here. One of our slogans is allow us to bring your vision to life. So if you have an idea for a children's book or an adult book, we gladly will publish you, right? We do that. We have published a few books for adults already. So I have an autobiography. It's actually kind of topical. It's called Up From the Trap, right? That is published. We have Lenny Williams. We published a couple of his books. But specifically as far as the brand of Melanin Origins goes, our goal is to start with our children's books at 2nd grade and below, right? And then we take the subject matter, we take it to a middle grade audience. So now we're satisfying that audience. And then we take the subject matter, we beef it up, and then we take it to the older audiences. Like right now I'm glad because first off, for 2nd grade and below, like that's our lane. We're doing our thing. Like that's where we're finding the most success. Middle grade, I see some competition out there, but not really. When you get to the the books, then you're talking about going up with Dr. John Henry Clark, the Sheikh Anta Diop, so it's like my business partner and I, we're actually about to start referring books, to walk people down a certain path so they can, see where we get our information from, where we can point them to, well, this talks about that, and just walk people into the consciousness journey as we see it. But definitely in the future, we will be making our way there.
Dope. So this kind of ties into my previous question, but what is next for Melanin Origins? What is next for 2022?
Wow, man. Well,
what they got going on?
Wow, great question.
Well, that's a very great question. Next year, we're really focused on. So actually, starting in last September, a couple months ago, we've been releasing 15 books in 7 months. So 15 books in 7 months. And so that is going to be done. We're going to be done with that cycle in April. We'll be done with all that, both of our series. That'll be complete. At this point, we're going to focus on publishing other people. So we want to bring your vision to life. We want to do that. Like I say, we have 25 books. Now it's time to attack the vacation Bible schools. It's time to attack the schools, the summer youth programs. It's time to get recurrent business-to-business sales right? So that we can sustain our company, so that we can continue to produce and put out this kind of information. And I mean, honestly, up until this point, it's been about putting out the information. It's been about setting our children up for generational wealth. But just as you know, brother, you know, we have to be sustained. Like, I don't want to work 9 to 5 and come do this, you know what I mean? You know, so we have to be sustained with putting this information out there. And so business to business, that is our request, right? If you are an educator, if you have an audience with children, listen, the final thing that we need to add on to it is a dynamic performance. We talked about it earlier. You know, I've been talking about these rappers getting out here doing this. We need to have a dynamic performance. Like, what does that look like? How do we put on a program that gets the kids excited, that will have Steve Harvey mentorship program calling us, ISDs around the nation calling us, so we can put on this and tie it into this information that we have here? Because we know, we have different markets. Black history, we got, religious market, and then we have just the pro-Black woke conscious market. And so we have opportunities. Our plan is to network, strategic alliance, and build our contacts so that these books can get inside the hands of our target audience. That's it.
That's right. And look, I can't add anything more to that other than in a very simple way, we're trying to get people to see what we know we've created. We know we have the products that people need and that people want. And so we need to connect with those people to let them know that we have what they need. So that requires, people in our tribe pushing Melanin Origins. That requires them continuing to support us and buying books and telling their teacher friends and coming on shows like this. We appreciate you, brother, for having us. This is an opportunity for your audience to know more about us. You know what I mean? We appreciate the time that you're taking to allow us to speak our truth. So thank you. And more of this is what you can expect in 2022.
Alhamdulillah. So one more question. Well, it's not really a question, but any last words of advice for our children coming up and, they're not doing so good in school. They may want to become something, but, environment issue is stifling them, so to speak. Any words of advice for our children?
I'll step out there. I would say to the children of the world, first to your parents, get our Ma'at series, because 7 books, and we have a bonus book, and it's called, let me grab it. It'll be backwards, but it's called, where is that? It's called Amen, the Principle of Peace. Amen, the Principle of Peace. I'm going to tie that in because our children, they say they struggle with ADHD and all this stuff. I mean, suicide rates are alarming. I mean, they're dealing with all this extra stuff. And we want kids to know that, peace isn't just something that is so external that you have to go do this to search for it and seek it and all that. We have uncovered information from the Tree of Life that tells us that, first off, the Tree of Life is within us, and that our default nature is peace. And so to the children of the world, I have an affirmation to you, and I'll give it to you like this, is that I have found peace within myself. My peace I bring, and my peace I give. I am peace, and you are peace. Now, this is not to say that you'll always act in a way that is normally deemed as peaceful by society standards, but you are peace. And those who interact with you must do so harmoniously with propriety or suffer the consequences of their own actions. In the depths of the ocean, there is a peace. There is a calm. There is a stillness that is totally unmoved by the chaos of flapping waves at the surface top. That is the peace that you are. If a person were to dive into the ocean and not know how to swim, well, then shame on them. Who in their right mind would place the ocean at fault? However, you are peace. So by default, you bless others with your presence. Therefore, remain graceful as you express yourself in love. That's the affirmation. And that's what we're causing children to know, is that the default nature of who they are, there's an end to depression. There's an end to suicidal thoughts. There's an end to all this anxiety that we face. And we're teaching kids how to see that they themselves have a peaceful nature that they can tap into. And then from that place, create their reality. That's it, brother. It's melaninorigins.com.
Right.
That's powerful.
Yes, yes. There you have it. Well, again, thank you, brothers, for your time, for your positive energy, for your knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and overstanding on various topics that we touched on here tonight. Again, thank you, family, and enjoy your night and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you, family. Appreciate it.
Sir,
thank you to everybody who was with us tonight.
Yes, 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 sir. I leave you as I greet you. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, shalom, hotep, Islam, Alafia. Peace.
Peace, brother.
Peace.